Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the 5 worst contracts in the 2021 free agency period. We've had a little bit of time here to decide which are the worst contracts so far this season. And again, from NHLRumors.com, they got some good stuff. This was an interesting look, and I agree with most of it, so we'll get into it. So the first one on this list, I'm wearing the Kraken jersey today. It's Philip Grubauer of the Seattle Kraken. He has not done well so far in Seattle, and unfortunately, things have not really worked out too well. Like I said, $5.9 million per year for a 6-year deal. The Seattle Kraken wasted no time making that big move on free agency day, basically stealing him away from the Colorado Avalanche. He has won 30 games and managed to put up a 1.95 goals against average and a .922 save percentage. And he was also playing on one of the better teams in the league. But through 23 games this season, things have not gone that well. He ranks dead last in save percentage among goalies with at least 10 games played. And in 23 games, Grubauer only has 7 wins to show. So it's been a really rough start to his career in Seattle. I like Philip Grubauer. Listen, I termed him Grubauer Power back in the day, if you guys remember, when he was with the Hershey Bears. So this was tough. It was tough watching him struggle so far this year, and he took a lot of heat for going for the bag out in Seattle and not taking less to stay on a better team in Colorado. And this is kind of what ends up happening, and this is where he's at. Kind of a similar boat here in Calgary, as I knew on day one that this could be a contract that kind of blows up in the Flames' face, because the question is Blake Coleman, and you could go back to that video I made at the reaction of the first day of free agency, is Blake Coleman a top 6 center? And he hasn't answered that, or at least he hasn't given us a yes to that, because you look at his play. He signed to a $4.9 million per year deal for the next 6 years. He took the big payday this year. This was big for him. The problem is Coleman he's a good player. He's a good penalty killer. He's a good back checker. But the thing is, at the end of the day, he's a scrappy middle 6 forward. And the problem is, when you're giving him $5 million, basically, let's be honest, $5 million, it hurts your cause. And I know Calgary's situation, they were trying to fix some things. Brad Treliving has been reeling there in Calgary. So it's one of those things where, despite the Flames having a really successful start this year and Markstrom having, I think, 5 or 6 shutouts in this season alone already, this has been one of the down points of this team, is Blake Coleman. As well as he has played, he has never gotten more than 36 points in a season. This is because of his injury-riddled past, which is another big problem for him. Now, the Tampa Bay Lightning got a haul for him at the trade deadline 2 years ago from the New Jersey Devils to Tampa Bay. He scored 14 points, 31 points in the shortened season earlier in 2021. That was his 46-point pace over 82 games. But again, at $30 million basically, that's a lot of money, and Blake Coleman isn't going to give you that. The problem is he's a good third liner, but how much are you going to spend on your third line? How much are you going to spend in your bottom 6? I hate to say it, that's where you have these sorts of issues. That's a guy where you throw in a Dylan Dubé. Dylan Dubé should be there, right? Or somebody else. You can't be paying that money when you have to sign Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey this year. There's too much there. I don't necessarily understand the move. And again, at the time, that was talked about as a bad move. And like I said, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, because you think, could he really be a top 6 center? He kind of did it in New Jersey for a little bit. But again, you're seeing that was a Devils team that was missing the playoffs and inevitably got Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier. So, take with that what you will, right? Peter Murasik of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is an interesting one because, again, the Leafs made a big shakeup in between the pipes. They let go of Freddie Anderson, sent him packing to Carolina, and basically it was a one-for-one trade. It was Freddie Anderson for Peter Mrázek. Freddie Anderson, you could argue, is the best goalie so far in the 2021-22 NHL season. That's how good he's been. Other than Jacob Markstrom, it's been the Freddie Anderson show down in Carolina. Peter Mrázek has not worked that well for the Maple Leafs, on the other hand. He's getting paid $3.8 million AAV. That's annual average value for the next 3 seasons. And the problem is the Leafs had kind of sold in on Jack Campbell, but they wanted that 1B option, and that was supposed to be Peter Mrázek. They still needed a reliable backup. The problem is he just hasn't been able to do what they thought he could do, be that reliable backup option. Early in the season, Campbell was shining, playing really well. Mrázek never found his stride. In the 3 games that he played, he has an .880 save percentage, and obviously that's a small size, but still, again, with the injury stuff, he has not come back from that. And you do wonder when you have those kinds of injuries that Mrázek has been dealing with. He had this in Carolina. He missed this earlier this season because of injury. It's not adding up. What was the mindset from Kyle Dubas there? Because if he's not healthy, you need another goalie, and if you have Joseph Woll or somebody else, you're kind of playing your cards there. Or Michael Hutchinson, I think, is the third option. Again, not the most ideal. And again, when you see the success Freddie Anderson's having, it kind of makes things just that much worse for the Maple Leafs. And again, another head scratcher by Kyle Dubas. Despite what they're doing so far, that is still being talked about. Now, Mike Hoffman of the Montreal Canadiens, Mark Bergevin's one of his last signings with the Habs. Mike Hoffman, $4.5 million per year for the next 3 seasons. The thing about Mike Hoffman, everything has been controversy for him over the last little while. Obviously, the way his relationship in Ottawa ended, him and Erik Karlsson's wives got in and girlfriends got it. They had a little cat fight and said some really messed up stuff, and it just never got better from there. And then, obviously, for a day, Mike Hoffman was there, and then Karlsson got traded to San Jose. And he's been bouncing around, Mike Hoffman, and this isn't anything new. The problem with Mike Hoffman is he's not good defensively at all. And it doesn't work with what Dominic Ducharme is trying to create there in Montreal. So you kind of have this situation where you're giving $13.5 million and you're investing into this guy where you're not really sure where he's at. Now, perhaps once COVID-19 is over and the NHL can begin to function normally again, he'll see a resurgence. Until he improves on his 35-point pace, his contract will be known as one of the worst signed this offseason. And I think to this date, at this very point, that is the case right now for Mike Hoffman. Nick Felino is going to cap off our list here in the top 5, and that is a $3.8 million deal, a 2-year deal he signed with the Boston Bruins this summer. There was a couple of teams in the mix for Nick Felino. He was rumored to go back to Toronto, where he was traded to this spring. There was rumors he might play with his brother, Marcus Felino, in Minnesota. Couldn't get a deal done. He ends up going to Boston. And the thing here with Nick Felino is, I almost just said his name. He reminds me a lot of what Nick Ritchie has been for the Boston Bruins. A guy, and he's not even that. The thing is, Nick Felino, he's not been able to produce at the level he did in Columbus. He just hasn't. And, according to what this says here from NHLRumors.com, of all the contracts on this list, the Nick Felino signing raised the most red flags. And I think that was pretty easy to tell right off the bat when he was traded to Toronto. Toronto media hailed him as the hero. He failed to score a single goal in the 11 regular season and playoff games he played there. So he hasn't been in a great spot recently. And when your confidence is low and you're in your head, it is really difficult to get out of that spot. That should have set off alarm bells around the league. Felino was a force to be reckoned with. Again, a 34-year-old winger. a 37-game goalless drought right now. So he didn't score a goal in Toronto. He didn't score a goal during the regular season, the playoffs, and has yet to record a goal for the Boston Bruins. Really disappointing. He has only 4 assists in 18 games he's played with the Bruins this year. Felino hasn't scored more than 50 goals in a season since 2017. That's 5 years. That is 5 years ago. Yikes, signing him to anything more than $1 or $2 million per year was a mistake for the Bruins, and they're paying the price for that. So to cap off our list, there it is. Nick Felino. So you got Nick Felino of the Bruins, Mike Hoffman of the Canadiens, Peter Murasik of the Leafs, Blake Coleman of the Calgary Flames, and at number 1, Philip Grubauer of the Seattle Kraken as the most disappointing contracts, the worst contract so far from that 2021 free agency period. Guys, free agency seems like Christmas morning, right? It's this day where you get all these big guys and everything's going to be nice and dandy and everything works out perfectly. Kevin Shat and Kirk of the Rangers. Remember, he was going back to his hometown team from Westchester. We know how that panned out. He got bought out 2 or 3 years into that deal. We've seen endless times that these contracts on July 1st don't work out. So maybe the GM that doesn't spend all that money ends up being the smart one at the end of the day. Maybe he ends up being the real winner of free agency by not signing that Blake Coleman contract, by not signing that Grubauer contract, by not signing that contract, Nick Felino, and all these other ones we can mention, and end up hurting your team not only right now, but for years to come. And it always ends up in a buyout or trading a second-round pick just to get rid of the damn guy. Or Andrew Ladd of the Islanders, another great example of that back in the day. We see it all the time, and GMs still do it, and you think they learn their lesson, and they don't. They just do it again and again and again, and they just hope that they buy it out, and it's over, and hopefully they're not the GM that has to buy it out, because they're not going to be around then, so who cares, right? So that's kind of the stance on that. That is it for today's video, guys. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, more videos just like this one, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.